what is normal? And even before, who decides what is normal? Because in our everyday life, we usually do our tasks, go on with our days, without questioning so much what we do, or the rules, the norms, often implicit, that operate in our environment. And so today, I just want to briefly explore this concept of normality. Who decides what is normal? And why do we want to be normal? Are some of the questions we will address. And to begin, I just want to start by exploring the macro context. Because if you look at normality at a big scale, the power of defining what is normal goes to society, right? Society, what the majority of people do, think, and say, is what very fundamentally shapes our behavior. And we can start from this macro level, and I'll give you some examples on how society put labels of normality, starting from beauty. Now, we all probably know the Western concept of beauty. If you're watching me from Europe or America, you probably know that skinny girls. I'm not gonna go into the details, but I'm pretty sure you have the picture in mind. Now, what if I tell you that in certain ethnic groups in Mauritania, there is this practice called Le Bleu? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, which practically consists of force feeding girls starting from a very early age. So, to make them more attractive for marriage, because in that culture, being fat is an actual symbol of beauty, of purity, of fertility. And you can find this appreciation for fat and overweight, if you want to say, women way back in the past. The Greeks, and I can even believe some prehistorical relics tell us that people really used to value fat women. Another example could be that in Tajikistan, a woman with a unibrow is very beautiful. The unibrow is, in fact, a beauty standard that makes women more attractive, more wanted, more beautiful. But society does not only say what is normal beauty, it also says what is normal health. I'm sure you know that just a few years back in America, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, smoking was actually encouraged from doctors. Now imagine a doctor in the 21st century coming to you and suggesting you to smoke. Or even homosexuality. In the 50s and 60s, homosexuality was classified as a mental disorder in the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistic Manual. And today things are pretty different, I'll say. So these are just some of the examples through which we can see how society shapes our feelings of normality, dictates through often implicit norms what is normal. And this conditioning, I like to highlight, is often very, very subtle. We're not even aware of it. But if you look at yourself around, talking again about beauty, it's very hard to find advertisements with non skinny women in them or women with not a respective standard. You may even have friends, partners, or family that reinforce these patterns dictated by society. So conditioning happens very implicitly. And now, if we take a step back and look at things a bit more closely, we will find that also here rules of normality are set. For instance, let's look at a familiar context. I bet you have a family in mind that is very different from yours. Maybe they shout more, they dine at different times, they have different practices, they have different family dynamics. They allow certain things, they prohibit others. Some families are more conservative, maybe very religious, and some others are very open, love to have people for dinner, and of course, all in between, right? But this is just to give you an idea that what is normal is not only defined by our society, but even by our more proximate circumstances, like our families or our friends. If you have friends who consume drugs and have a very appreciative mindset of what altering yourself, how enjoyable that could be, well, that will have a say in what you feel is normal to do. But despite we have very different cultures and families, and as a consequence, very different understandings of what normality means, there is some common ground. We all possess, to some degree, some social, moral emotions that can be considered as maybe the only normal standard, the only true, unbiased way of thinking about normality. But some of these judgments that put us all on common ground are, for example, the judgment of fairness and reciprocity. And this has been proved by research. We all have a sense of justice, a desire to punish people that are not fair with us, a sense of disgust when people cheat or behave bad. And in the same way, we also share another social judgment slash emotion, which is the judgment of care and harm. We all have empathy. We all care for the children. We all try to care for each other. And we all have this sense of aversion to cruelty and violence. So, despite these familiar cultural differences, there is some common ground that puts us together. It gives me hope in humanity thinking this, because even though me and you might have grew up in different contexts, at least we share this basic understanding of empathy and care and fairness. It's cool. And now the last question: why do we conform? Why the hell do we have this need to feel normal? I mean, couldn't we just do whatever we want? Well, no. To live in a group harmoniously and to feel part of a group, we have to follow a set of rules and norms. And this need to be in a group actually stems from our evolution. Being in a group is pretty advantageous if you think about it. Being in a forest all alone by yourself is not as safe and comfortable as having a whole tribe to support you, to carry out different tasks together. And for that tribe to work together, to work well, some rules are required, some norms that regulate behavior, that allow certain things and don't allow others, so that everybody can live in harmony, are required. So I will say that our need to feel normal is fueled from the very, very, very deep need to belong to a group. And this is what pushes us to conform to what others do. In fact, you'll be pretty amazed. I learned this in my culture and behavior course here in Radboud University, that children actually have mechanisms by which they start imitating others without understanding what they're doing. So if you see a little baby, this little baby might start imitating their parents or people around him, even without an understanding of what actually his action mean or what they lead to. It's almost as if we have these conform, feel normal circuits in our brain that start guiding and nudging our behavior at a very early stage. So we have seen that what is normal is very dependent on the context. At a macro level, looking at society, or at a micro level, looking at even family and friends, the rules and norms that dictate what is normal can change drastically. Yet, there are also some common elements that actually create this feeling of normality across all human beings, right? Those social, moral judgments that I've talked to you about. We all, despite our differences, possess them. We have seen why we strive to feel normal. And as a last message, I just want to say that it's not entirely bad having these norms, right? They can feel daunting and oppressing. They can feel like as society or your family or people expect something from you. But if these expectations are healthy, they can actually be very empowering and they can help us steer our life into a positive direction. Of course, it is very context dependent. Some societies, families will give off very bad norms, but some others might do the opposite. So thank you for having listened to this video. And please do like and subscribe if you like the content. It's a terrific way to support this channel. Leave a comment, tell me your thoughts. I wanna know what you think about normality. Thank you for watching, and I wish you a nice life. full of learning, full of adventure.